Alright, so today I'm going to be making one of my standard issue knives. This is called the Praetorian Knife. It's one of my standard hunting knives that I make. It's got about 7-inch blade and overall length of just under a foot. So it's one of my favorite knives personally. I like the recurve, the shape is good handle, and just the way that the design flows makes it good for chopping after slicing. So it's one of my favorites, and I'm going to show how I make it and the sheath as well. So yeah, we'll get into it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, these ones I typically make using stock removal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bar that I have here. This is 52-100 steel from Alpha Knife Supply, and I'm going to take my pattern and I'm just going to scribe it in on the steel here. So yeah, we'll get it lined up and get ready to scribe it. Okay, so all I did was I took the pattern, I put it over the steel, and then I scratched it in there with the carbide scribe. And you can see that I spray painted this black, and I like that because it gives a better line when you're cutting it. And I'll do the same afterwards. I'll spray paint the edge black once I have it ground out. That way I can scribe my line and I know where I'm grinding to the middle. So now I'm going to cut it out with my angle grinder, and then I'll move to the belt sander to refine the shape. Okay, so I cut out the rough shape with the angle grinder. I left it pretty thick on the edges, that way I don't accidentally grind into it. The reason I use the angle grinder instead of the belt grinder is that it goes a bit quicker, and the cutting wheels are cheaper than grinding belts when you get down to how quickly it takes you to they get used up and how much work you can do with them. So I like to use those to get the rough shape cut out, and then I'll go to my grinder. So I got to true up the edges. You can see how I left a lot of space around the edge there, and I'll just grind it to shape, and once I have that ground, then I will mark the holes, drill them, and then start working on the bevels. Alright, so as you can see, I've center punched the holes. I took my scribe and I set it to half the length of the tang and did it on each side to get an approximate middle. And then I did the same here. I put the holes on the ends, and then I divided that in half and went right in the middle. Then I scribed it and center punched it. So now it's ready for drilling. I'm going to be using 3/16 inch thick pins. So I got my 3/16 bit up in my drill press and get ready to drill. So Let's give it a go. Alright, so I've got the pinholes drilled. Now I'm going to work on the bevels. I already did this bevel just to try it out, and it turned out really good. I do all my grinding freehand. I've been looking into, I think I'll try getting a file guide made so that I can try grinding it like that, but I like grinding in freehand. So now I'll just do the other bevel on this side, and then get ready for heat treat. I'm going to leave it maybe about 50 thousandths of an inch thick before, let me see here, yeah, 50 thousandths of an inch thick before heat treat. That way it should give it lots of room so that it won't crack in the heat treating, but so far it's going good. So I'll just keep on grinding, and then once we do the heat treating, actually before we do the heat treating, also grind in a groove here. And when I do the heat treating, I'm going to rough up this area because I want it to be look a little like it was hand forged. So I'll just hammer on this a little bit once it's hot. So yeah, keep grinding. I finished ground the knife, rough grind, and that's ready for heat treating. So you can see I've got the full bevel on the edge, and I've got the spine, the cutout here, the bevel there, and now it's ready for heat treating. I left it at about 50 thousandths thick at the edge, and I just want to, that way I have lots of room to grind later, and in case it warps or twists a little bit, I'll still have plenty of room to grind it nice and flat. But it's already down quite thick. It's about, yeah, so it's just a bit less than 1/16 of an inch. So now I'm going to fire up the forge. I'm going to heat treat it. First I'm going to normalize it, which means I'm going to bring it up to full temperature. And then I'm going to set it here, and I'm just going to let it air cool. And I'm going to do that 3 times. It's going to let the grains reset and get finer. That way when I do the quench, that I'm going to have a sharper edge, and it's not going to be as likely to break. So that's what I'm going to do first. Alright, so the knife is out of heat treat now. You can see it's all black from the forge scale and from the oil being baked on during the tempering process. But I've got it fully heat treated now, and all I have to do left is do the finish grinding, then polish it up and add a handle and sheath. So I'll go to the grinder and start grinding. Alright, so I've got the blade finished ground. I've brought it up to 400 grit. Now I'm going to start hand sanding, which the reason I'm doing hand sanding is so that I can get all the scratch marks going this way instead of like this. Because if you have them going this way, I just personally like that. It looks a bit cleaner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp it onto this block here, and I'll just take some sandpaper, wet and dry sandpaper, and with a steel plate, and I'm just going to scrub back and forth until I get a nice even finish. Okay, so I've got my sandpaper glued. I use just a spray adhesive to glue sandpaper onto the steel, and I'm going to use WD-40 as a lubricant just to keep the belt from gumming up, and I'll just start grinding, or polishing, sorry. Since it's not since I polished it up to 400 grit already, it's not going to take too much polishing to get to the finish. So already it's coming along. There's a couple scratches. You just got to keep constantly wiping away the WD-40. And what I use is I use a small flashlight, and then I can see where I'll need to keep working on. And I just keep doing that. So we'll go up the grits. This is 220. I'm going to work up to 600 grit before doing just a hand polish, a finished polish. So I finished polishing the knife. At the end, what I did to get the final polish is after I polished up to 600 grit with the steel, with the sandpaper glued to a piece of steel, is I took a small piece of wood and put the 600 grit sandpaper on there, and I just brought it from here, and I just brought it down all the way right back, all the way from where the blade started, and just kept bringing it back down. That way I wasn't going back and forth in order to get a nice even finish. And the wood is softer than the steel, so it really allows you to push in, and you can get a really fine finish, without too much effort. So now I just need to attach the handle and the sheath, get the sheath made. So I'm going to start with the handle. The wood of choice is Wenge. This is what it's going to be. It might be kind of hard to tell what it looks like in the camera, but it's a very dark wood with a straight grain and with some lighter and darker woods alternating. So it looks pretty nice. It's one of my favorites, and even though it's kind of simple, but it looks really sharp once when you put it onto the handle. So I'm gonna start by drilling the holes in here, and then I will cut it out and hopefully glue it up.